Hey everyone, this is my discussion board post where we go over possible topics for the end of the semester term paper for our firefighter safety class. As I was thinking about it, I had a lot of ideas rolling through my head, and there was one idea I kept coming back to, and it probably will be the one I eventually end up going with, and that is the emergence and the need of bulletproof vests and other tactical equipment for firefighters in an emergency scene. And the reason I kept coming back to this is that we've kind of had that first hand experience with it and recognized the need for it. Back early this year in, I believe it was April or May, sometime in the spring, the city of Cincinnati had a nightclub shooting on the east end of the city. At the time, there was only like 1 or 2 medic units available on the east end, so they called mutual aid really fast, and 3 of our 4 medic units ended up going. I was on the engine that day, but our medic unit out of our station, pretty well some of our territory borders the city of Cincinnati on our district. So the Cincinnati medic units, everybody was running to the west back towards what would be the downtown area of Cincinnati, and the Cincinnati medic units were actually stopped before they made it to the scene. So my station's medic unit was actually the first at the nightclub scene itself. Actually, we just talked about it yesterday on shift, how the guys walked in. They had no idea what was going on. They had no clue who the shooters were, how many shooters there were, who were true victims, and who were somebody could just pull a gun on them because they were a shooter type deal. So they just talked about how they felt naked. There was a police presence throughout the complex, but nobody walked in with them, and nobody actually entered the club with them. They were all outside, and so they just felt naked going in. They talked about how they just got the patient they were assigned to and got out of there as fast as they can. Our department had we would have been budgeting getting bulletproof vests and helmets for a while, just because of the scenes that were happening all throughout the country. We recognized that there was a definite need for it, but after our guys were actually experienced it firsthand, the vests got fast-tracked, and the vests and helmets were on the trucks probably in less than 2 months, I'd say, after our guys responded to the shooting on my shift. So now our department, I think we bought a total of, it ended up being 38 heavy vests and tactical helmets to go into such scenes. There's 2 on every medic unit and 4 on every engine, just in case we happen to have 4 guys that day for whatever reason. Just to give us that little bit of extra protection in situations when we have an SOG written where we can basically use them whenever, but we're going to use them on anytime there's an active shooter, person with a gun, any unsafe scene like that. Our SOG now reads to wear them, so they're there for our protection. And 10 years ago when I started volunteering, I never would have thought I'd see the day when it was the norm. So it was starting to become the norm to start putting vests on fire trucks because firefighters were getting shot at. One of the other things that's really being pushed at in Anderson, and for good reasons too, we've all seen the cancer studies, how we're at an increased risk for cancer. Some cancers more than the general public. So Anderson's really pushing decon if on a fire. If we have a fire, we had a training yesterday, our shift especially, because we have a lot of the turnout gear guys, and our battalion chief's in charge of gear, so he researches this and everything. But we're gross deconning on the fire scene as soon as it's feasible to. As soon as those guys know they're not going back in, we're beginning to gross decon, wipe them down. Then we're packing everything up, because my battalion chief described it yesterday in the training. They don't want the gear in the trucks because the fire trucks and the medic units are our office, so we want to keep that stuff out of our office as much as we can. So at Anderson, they understand the importance of decon so much that they're keeping us out of service even when we're back at the station, and they want us cleaned before we even put the truck back in service. Their thought process is that there's spare vehicles for the off-duty guys that come in on the call out, and they can staff the vehicles until we get cleaned, and then the trucks get put back into service last. So that's just for our safety, so hopefully reduces cancer for us down the line. And my third topic, I kind of mentioned it in my discussion board post, my other discussion board post for the week on emerging technology, and that's the cool safety features, cool lack of a better word, safety features that are becoming almost standard in fire trucks these days. Like the book said, seatbelts have pretty well been standard for decades, if not close to 100 years. It's just getting people to use that, and hopefully there's a big culture shift where everybody starts using it. But what I'm talking about is more along the lines of like airbags and roll cages. Who would have thought we'd see the day where it was becoming standard that a fire truck was equipped with side curtain airbags and a reinforced frame to where it's almost like a NASCAR roll cage. Although it's sad that it's because of firefighters dying that's happened, and fire trucks rolling over in wrecks, it's kind of cool to see that the same safety features that are in our passenger vehicle can be applied to bigger, heavier trucks. So those are my three ideas that initially popped in my head. Like I said, right now, if I had to pick, it'd probably be the bulletproof vest one, just because it's still something fresh in our minds, and something that Anderson's been very proactive at. Any feedback I appreciate. You guys have a good one.